Learning web development can be a little bit overwhelming since there are so many topics that you need to know about in comparison to backend development. So today I'm going to show you two roadmaps that you can follow step by step. We're going to start with a simple front-end roadmap. Then we're going to move to a more detailed roadmap. So starting with the simple front-end roadmap, you're going to want to start with HTML, how to make a website using HTML. And then you're going to move to CSS so that you can style your website and make it more beautiful. Then you're going to move on to JavaScript, which adds interactivity to your website. Then you're going to want to learn about version control systems, in particular Git and GitHub. This is going to allow you to have a code history and always have a backup of your code. This is really crucial and is going to help you a lot during your programming sessions. Then if you want to install some libraries from the communities and add some fancy stuff to your website, you're going to want to use NPM, which is the most used package management in the JavaScript ecosystem. Now, if you want to create a real project, you're going to start noticing that HTML, CSS, and JavaScript will only get you so far. So you're going to want to use something like React, which is a framework which makes it way easier to create modern websites. Once you learn React, you're also going to notice that CSS is sometimes a bit hard to work with, and Tailwind is a CSS framework that you can use. It's very, very common, and that's going to make it way easier to style your website. And then if you want to test your code to make sure that it works how you expect it to work, you're going to want to use a testing framework like vtest or Jest. So this roadmap is really good for starting out. And if you want to get even deeper or expand your knowledge, then I would recommend following this other roadmap, which has the same stuff from the previous roadmap, but with added points. By the way, if you ever wanted to build a live communication app like Zoom or Google Meet, then you should definitely check out today's video sponsor, ZEGOCLOUD. ZEGOCLOUD is a video as a service platform that makes it simple to add video calling functionality to your application. Whether you're building a social media app, a game with real-time voice, video, and messaging, an online education platform, or any app requiring live communication, ZEGOCLOUD has you covered. Their developer-friendly SDKs and pre-built UI kits allow you to integrate these features seamlessly. The UI kits include customizable components you can copy and paste into your app across all major platforms, saving you the hassle of setting up everything from scratch on the backend. And the cherry on the top, ZEGOCLOUD offers a powerful console with built-in analytics giving you full control to manage your projects efficiently. Sign up now and get 10,000 free minutes to get started. The link will be down in the description. So here we're going to want to start with the basics of the internet. What is the internet? What is HTTP, the protocol that is used in the internet? How do domain names work? How are domain names managed in the internet? How is a website hosted? And how does a web browser work? You don't need to go super into the details, but just knowing what does what inside this whole system is really helpful. Then you're going to want to learn HTML like before. And here, instead of just learning the basics, you may want to also learn the semantic HTML, which means that you use different elements for different stuff. So in HTML, you can use a div element for basically almost everything. But the right way of doing HTML is using the specific elements like the headers, the paragraph, and other elements. Then if you want to have some forms in your website, you may want to use forms and validate the user input if the password is correct, if the user really inputted an email address, stuff like that. Accessibility is also another topic that is getting more important since the regulations are also make sure that websites get more and more accessible. And especially if you want to build a blog or a personal website, then learning SEO, search engine optimization basics, will be really helpful further down the line. Once you have checked all those boxes, you can move to CSS. And this time you can also start with the basics, but also learn how layouts work in CSS. Layouts are really important in making a website look and feel modern. And for that, you can use grids and flex boxes. And these have a lot of details that you need to learn about. Then you can use them to the fullest. And also, of course, responsive design so that your website can be easily viewed on mobile devices, since there's a lot of traffic coming from mobile devices. Then comes JavaScript. Finally, you want to learn the basics of JavaScript, but also how to change stuff in the DOM, the document object model, and also how to get the data from another system, another server, using the fetch API. I would actually skip this AJAX, which is kind of the old way of making requests on the web. Then, of course, you're going to have your Git and GitHub. Of course, you can also use GitLab or Bitbucket, but I think GitHub also has really good free tier. And when it comes to package managers, NPM is not the only one. There's also pnpm and Yarn. pnpm has gained a lot of popularity in the last years for being very efficient, and Yarn, in my experience, has been very good when you're creating a React native app. Then when it comes to web frameworks, then you may want to start with React. It has also been my first framework that I learned, and also my favorite. It's also super popular. Then there's also Vue.js, which is a great alternative for React. It's known for being super simple and powerful as well. Then there's also other frameworks like Angular, Svelte, Solid.js, Quick, which I have never worked with, to be honest. So I would actually focus on the 3 or 4 first entries here. And then in CSS, you can use, of course, Tailwind. Here there is this CSS architecture, which I'm not really sure what is meant by that. Okay, so they have naming conventions, component-based design, separation of concerns. That's something that you can also learn. I personally have never paid too much attention to CSS architecture, but that's good. That's something that I can focus on. CSS preprocessors are used a lot in production, although Tailwind has been the most popular approach in the last years. There are still a lot of people using Sass and PostCSS, so that's also interesting to learn. Then come linters and formatters. We're going to start with Prettier, which is used to format your code when you write your code in your code editor. You may want to learn how to use it from the command terminal, and also how to configure it that your code is styled according to your own code standards. Then there's ESLint, which is used for linting, basically giving you warnings and errors when you're writing your code. And you can also configure it to match exactly your preferences, what you want to consider as an error, how loose or how strict you want to be in your code. Then come module bundlers. I think here I would not go too deep inside this category. This is some real advanced stuff, and it's pretty rare that you have to configure Vite or Webpack and stuff from scratch. So I would not invest too much time inside this category, but still good to know the basics. Then we have testing libraries used to test your code. Vtest has gained a lot of popularity, but Jest is also very popular and is also very established. And when it comes to visual testing or end-to-end testing, then you definitely want to check out Playwright, which allows you to create some really cool UI tests, basically telling, click over here, write this thing there, this and that, and then expect that the UI looks this way. And this is really cool because it's super flexible and you can use it with any framework that you're using. Then comes authentication. Of course, every website needs to somehow authenticate the users and check their user rights. So that's a very interesting topic to know. Then come web security basics. That's also, of course, really important to understand. So I would say that from here, most of these components are nice to have and not really necessary to learn. For example, web components, this is just a standard how to define UI elements on the web, and it's really debatable if they are the future of the web or not. TypeScript is also a real nice to have. I would actually have pushed TypeScript up here somewhere because it's definitely more important than web components, for example. Then comes server-side rendering, which is rendering your website on the server. This is especially useful if you want your website to be search engine friendly. For example, that when Google opens your website, it's already rendered. And for that, especially if you're using React, then Next.js would be your go-to place. Then comes GraphQL, which is also on the gray zone. I don't know if you're going to use this on your daily life as a developer or not. Then come PWAs, which are web applications that you can install as an app. And then we have static site generators. Here we have the same stuff as here in the server-side rendering section. And then, of course, if you want to go outside of the boundaries of a front-end web development, then it would be cool to know a bit more about mobile app development, especially React Native. If you already can program in React, React Native will be really, really easy to use. And if you want to have a desktop application of some sort, then you can use Electron or Tauri. And for that, you don't need to learn a lot more than you already know in front-end development. So I hope this video gave you a good understanding on what to expect when learning front-end development. If you're interested in React and front-end development in general, then check out my other videos. Other than that, see you in the next video.